Her body found about 15 miles away from where she was last seen.
There are no words that can help them understand that pain. No parent should have to bury a child. So understandably, her mom was very upset. So I did speak with the family. It's devastating, and they reacted in a way that you could feel their devastation.
It was just after 10:30 at night on January 15, 2025, when firefighters pulled up to a vacant home on Cardamon Court in Columbia, South Carolina. No power, no residents, no reason for smoke to be coming from it at all. Crews forced their way in expecting a routine structure fire. What they found on the floor inside was a body. There was no ID on her, no purse, no phone, no backpack, nothing to say who she was. Her injuries were so severe that even side by side with photographs of a missing girl, investigators couldn't get a match. It would take DNA to tell them who was lying on that floor. She was 13 years old. Her name was Niyah Baker, and 2 days earlier, she had been reported missing. What investigators pieced together next wasn't just the story of how she died. It was the story of 2 other teenage girls who knew her, and a series of failures across 3 different systems that were each, in their own way, supposed to keep kids like her safe. If you enjoy factual true crime told with context, not sensationalism, you'll probably enjoy this channel. Consider subscribing. Now, let's go back to that house on Cardamon Court, because what investigators found there would uncover far more than a homicide.
Brutal, heinous, vicious, gruesome, monstrous, and disturbing. These are the words I use to describe this murder investigation.
Columbia police reached out to the Richland County Sheriff's Office, which was already running its own investigation into a missing juvenile. Detectives compared notes and photos. Still no match. Coroner Niyah Rutherford later explained just how far off those initial comparisons were. The young woman's description matched a few other women who were reported as runaways or missing, she told reporters, meaning even with a short list of names, nobody could point at a photo and say for certain who she was. So investigators turned to a DNA lab. On January 19th, 4 days after the fire, the Richland County Coroner's Office confirmed it. The girl found inside that house was Niyah Baker, and her death was being ruled a homicide.
And unfortunately, the description provided of Niyah Baker was so different, in fact, that even the pictures that they sent of her just did not seem to match up. Due to severe trauma to her head, face, and body, visual identification just was not possible. The manner of death is not an accident, and this is not a suicide. This is a horrible homicide.
Niyah was reported missing from her foster home on January 12th. She was last seen alive the next day on Auburn Leaf Drive in Hopkins, a rural community southeast of the city. From there, she disappeared completely. 2 days later, her body turned up roughly 20 miles away in a vacant house. Police have said only that she knew the people responsible for her death. Not strangers, not a random encounter. At a press conference on January 21st, Coroner Niyah Rutherford didn't soften it. The manner of death was not an accident, and this was not a suicide. This is a horrible homicide. Her finding was blunt force trauma. Niyah had been bludgeoned, stabbed, and burned. Chief Holbrook called the crime brutal, heinous, vicious, gruesome, monstrous, disturbing, and confirmed the fire itself wasn't an accident either. Investigators believe it was set deliberately to destroy evidence. The case pulled in the Richland County Sheriff's Department, SLED, and the Columbia Fire Department alongside city police, the kind of multi-agency response reserved for the most serious crimes a city sees. 2 days after her identity was confirmed, on January 18th, Columbia police announced 2 arrests, a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old girl, both unnamed as juveniles. Both had dropped out of high school. Both had histories of running away. The 16-year-old also had disorderly conduct and other charges across South Carolina and Georgia, and was already wanted by the Department of Juvenile Justice at the time of the murder. She'd cut off her court-ordered ankle monitor and vanished. then been reported missing on January 12th, the same day as Niyah. There's one detail from that press conference that's easy to miss, but hard to shake once you sit with it. The 16-year-old wasn't just missing. She was the subject of an active pickup order, meaning DJJ had already flagged her as someone who needed to be located and returned to custody before any of this happened. She removed the one piece of technology meant to track her location, and in that same window, a 13-year-old girl was killed and set on fire. Solicitor Byron Gibson offered one glimpse into the interrogations. When you talk to people that have been involved in committing heinous crimes like this, you're looking to seek answers and read their reactions. But sometimes, it's when there are no reactions that's most troubling.
But based on what we've seen at this point, it was brutal, it was heinous, it was all of those words the chief used. And we expect, after the review of this information, to petition the family court to prosecute these juveniles as adults because of the heinous nature of what happened.
Gibson told reporters his office would petition to have both girls tried as adults. A real legal process, not a formality. In South Carolina, that means a solicitor petitioning family court for transfer, then a judge signing off after hearings and arguments about each defendant individually. With two separate juveniles, it was always going to take time. Chief Holbrook, at the same podium, turned to parents. Know where your kids are, who they're with, what they're doing. He pointed to what he saw as a pattern across a string of violent incidents involving Columbia teenagers that year, an absence of present parents. He didn't say that caused Niyah's death. He said it kept showing up.
There has been some circulation on social media about Niyah's history of maybe she had been a runaway or maybe she had, done some things. And the fact remains is that Niyah is dead. And I don't care if she ran away 1,000,000 times, she didn't deserve to die. She didn't deserve to die. And I think that people need to be focused on that.
Niyah was born in Jacksonville, Florida in 2011 and grew up in Sumter, South Carolina. People close to her describe a strong bond with her grandmother, Bernice, that steadied her through a rough adolescence. In the summer of 2024, months after turning 13, she left home at 2 a.m. without telling anyone. Not the last time. By January 2025, she was in foster care in Columbia, already flagged more than once as a runaway. Rutherford pushed back publicly on how that label got used after her death. It was a cautionary tale for teens who may be running away and think that there is no danger in it. But she didn't like how often it overshadowed the crime itself. She didn't deserve to die, Rutherford said, a coroner feeling the need to defend a dead 13-year-old's character, months after the cameras had moved on. City Manager Teresa Wilson said the news had shaken her personally. Mayor Daniel Rickenman pointed to the need for deeper investment in the city's Office of Violence Prevention. Neighbors began leaving flowers and stuffed animals outside a house that had sat ignored for years. Months later, organizers walked the neighborhood on what would have been Niyah's birthday. One community voice, identified only as Smith, had a blunt message for anyone who notices a kid alone at odd hours. Call it in. You're not bothering us. We want to know why that child is out at 1 a.m. Advocates for foster youth framed her death as an argument for treating child protection as everyone's job, not just parents, caseworkers, or police's alone. Her case also reopened an old argument about Columbia's stock of vacant, unsecured buildings. No longer an abstract debate about blight, but about a child's body sitting undiscovered for 2 days inside one of them.
Just a few hours ago, Sheriff Leon Lott gave new insight into this past Sunday's escape from the DJJ facility here in Columbia. Around 8:50 in the evening, Lott said deputies located a vehicle just near Wilson Boulevard and Sharp Road with the escapee and her mother, 39-year-old Savannah Mills, inside. He said Mills assisted in the escape from DJJ. The sheriff says inside the car they also found 2 stolen guns. Now, we knew earlier this weekend about the escape, but today Lott confirmed the teen who escaped was being held on a murder charge. She's one of the teens charged by Columbia police in the killing of 13-year-old Niyah Baker. Police said Baker was beaten, stabbed, and burned and found dead in a vacant home. The sheriff said this afternoon that parents should never cross the line from being parents to participants in a crime.
If you condone, participate, help your son or daughter commit a crime, then you're going to be arrested. You're going to be held accountable. You should hold your children accountable, and when you don't, then we're going to hold you accountable.
And as for Mills, she was brought up on new charges since her initial arrest on Sunday night.
Two systems had already shown cracks before January 2025. Kids in foster care flagged as chronic runaways are among the most vulnerable people the system handles, often without steady adult attention to catch warning signs early. Niyah's July 2024 disappearance was logged as a single incident rather than the start of a pattern, and an ankle monitor only works if someone's watching the feed. The 16-year-old suspect proved a monitor can be removed and a pickup order can sit unexecuted long enough that a child ends up dead. Months later, she'd proved the same point a second time by walking out of a facility that was supposed to be secure. None of the three girls, Niyah or either suspect, were unknown to the systems meant to track at-risk youth. Each already had a file, a caseworker, a record. They still ended up in the same place on the same night, with the worst possible outcome for one and life-altering charges for the other two. Put those two failures side by side, and a harder question comes into focus. How many warning signs have to stack up? A removed monitor, an active pickup order, a documented history of running and disorderly conduct, before a system treats a teenager as a genuine risk to someone else, and not just a risk to herself? Nobody in Columbia has offered a clean answer to that question, and the same girl's second escape, months later, suggests the system still hadn't found one. That's not a story about kids slipping through the cracks, unnoticed. It's a story about kids who were noticed repeatedly and whose files apparently weren't enough to change what happened next. By July 2025, 6 months after the fire, reporters checking in found the solicitor's office declining to comment on status. It was still unclear whether either girl had been moved out of family court. Police still weren't discussing a motive. For a community that had heard monstrous and vicious used to describe what happened to one of their own kids, that silence didn't sit well. In September 2025, the case resurfaced. Sheriff Leon Lott announced that a teenage girl had escaped from a DJJ detention facility, the same 16-year-old already facing murder charges for Niyah's death. She hadn't gotten out alone. Her mother, Savannah Mills, allegedly helped her. Deputies found the two together in a car, with 2 firearms inside, at least one stolen. Mills was arrested and charged for her role in the escape. Both girls' cases remain active, with prosecutors still pushing for adult charges. Mills now faces her own charges tied to the escape. A case that began with one dead 13-year-old has since pulled in a 4th person and a 4th family. No official motive has been released. Investigators have said Niyah knew both girls accused of killing her, but no one has explained how the 3 girls' paths crossed, how she ended up 20 miles from where she was last seen, or who, if anyone, saw something along the way. What's public is the aftermath: a body, a fire, 2 arrests, a prosecutor's promise, an escape, a second arrest. The middle of the story still belongs almost entirely to the people who were there. Niyah Baker was 13. She had a grandmother named Bernice who loved her, a habit of running that people used against her even after she was gone, and a coroner who went on the record to say none of that made her death acceptable. She deserved a lot more than an abandoned house on Cardamon Court. If this case stuck with you the way it stuck with so many people in Columbia, please subscribe to this channel. There are more cases like Niyah's, cases that deserve to be told carefully, accurately, and with the same attention to the people behind them.